But you know what I worry about when a vacuum is filled, Sam? When we have people that don't trust news, they do their own research. And the problem with doing your own research is it's a little bit like doing your own research when you're sick on the internet and you're like, oh, I have a pain in my side. This must be cancer.
So, Bryan, where do we get our info from? Where is the reliable thing? Is it Fox News that lied to us about weapons of mass destruction?
No, that's a good question.
Is it MSNBC that lied to us about Russian collusion and sexual assaults and all this bullshit?
You're right.
It's like for me, man, it's just like,
what do we do?
You know, Kenny Mayne, who was a guy on ESPN forever, and the guy got really fucked, and they asked him to take a 70% pay raise while they were going to give this other chick on there an insane amount of money. Which she does not warrant. I mean, the market is whatever the market wants to pay you, right? So in that sense, she deserves it because someone's going to pay her that, okay?
Yeah.
But as a guy who loves sports, in particular football, basketball, I never tune in to anything because she is doing the show. But they wanted to pay her the same amount of money. And a guy who helped build up ESPN, this guy Kenny Mayne, they kind of dicked him, man. So he put out something just like you, and it's on, and I kind of put on Instagram, and I'll show you it right now, or on Twitter. He put it on Twitter, and it was, and I kind of slammed him pretty hard because I just like when you lose a hero, it really fucking sucks. It's like, and you kind of put this out, and it's kind of what you're talking about, and it said. The tweet is the United States of America, and it says it's a drawing right here, right? And in the drawing, it says, honey, come look. I found some information all the world's top scientists and doctors have missed, right? Which is patronizing as fuck.
But I do like what he's saying, because it's true that you guys who are in the conspiracy world do tend to kind of think that you found the answer.
No. And I asked him, where are you getting your super factual facts? And I guarantee it's the television, which has lied to you consistently.
That's the problem. And that's the problem is
that's their problem.
The problem with the news, they are creating a group of people like yourself who are going to go and find their own information out because they don't trust. They have lost the trust. The media has lost 50% of Americans, or even more, I think, don't trust the media. So is that the people's fault, or is that media's fault? I think it's media's fault. It's money's fault.
Whose fault is it if Charlie Brown keeps kicking the football?
It's Charlie Brown's.
It's Charlie Brown's fault. No, but it's also
it's like people falling for it all the time. I'm sorry, I know what you mean.
It's the chick, it's the person Lionel or whatever her name is, who keeps pulling the football. So if she goes, Charlie kicked the football, he's like, fuck you, you're gonna pull it. She's like, come on, man. Who are you supposed to trust? You gonna hold the ball yourself? It's like, no, dude, you keep pulling the ball.
So pretty soon it's Charlie Brown's responsibility to just not try to kick the ball anymore.
There you go, Bryan.
Well, but I mean, I agree.
Give me the ring.
No, hold on. I agree with that. What you can't do, though, in response is start inventing or falling for theories and narratives that are not substantiated. So we need a way to substantiate those theories and narratives. That's all.
Bryan, if everything I posted on my Instagram for the next year was 100% false, my batting average would still be 10 times better than the news. It's just the truth, man.
So let me give you an example of what I just heard. So Ben Shapiro and this black scholar on Bill Maher had a debate. It was really interesting because the subject was critical race theory. And I've done some homework on critical race theory and actually read a couple books on it recently. And what's interesting is that you got one side that says, so one side, so the right will say, you critical race theorists are Marxists and you want to tear down everything and rebuild it in a Marxist, in a Marxist light. And then that's one narrative. And it gets people scared like myself. So what I do is I go and read critical race theory. By the way, I happen to, after reading 2 books, my personal opinion is that critical race theory, the scholars like Kimberly Crenshaw, Derek Bell, Richard Delgado, and so on, all are essentially Marxists who do believe that the only way to create a non-racist world is to tear down what we have in this country for the most part and replace it with something akin to Marxism. Okay, that's what I had. That's what I gathered, because every time you get to the end of it, they say the system itself, regardless of how neutral it is has a baked in white supremacy, racist structure. So what we have to do is tear it all down. Now, that's my opinion after reading it. However, there are black scholars, there are critical race scholars, there are crits, they call them, who will say
crits?
to you,
They're
hold
crits?
on, dude. Yeah. And they'll say, hold on, dude, hold on. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is a nuanced argument. And what we're trying to say is that there are aspects of critical race theory that would be helpful in the debate on how to create a more equitable world. And so what happens with a lot of scholars is they go, man, you're characterizing me as a hard. It's a little bit like I'm religious. And then someone like Sam Harris goes, oh, you believe Jesus Christ walked on water. Well, hold on, dude. You're characterizing me as a fundamentalist who believes every single word, as opposed to somebody who interprets it in symbol.
Sam
or,
Harris
or
was also talking about how the West has better intentions than the quote unquote terrorist groups of the Middle East. Right?
Sure.
Why we were bombing the fuck out of their country. Like, I mean, that dude
Sam,
is suspect.
But I do think, dude, that you and I as Americans must understand how to articulate and believe in and voice and understand the difference between terrorists and what we stand for as a country. Because there is a difference between the Taliban and their repressive ideology and their medieval notion and fundamentalist notion of Islam that is awful in comparison to the liberal West. There are differences. And we are very lucky that we live in this country, because real oppression exists, and its name is Afghanistan today. And right. and a lot of people who are whiny crybabies should take a look at Afghanistan before they start worrying about fucking gender pronouns in their colleges.
100%, Bryan.
That's
but also, Bryan, the people right now that are pushing Marxism tend to be upper class, upper middle class, upper class. And they're upper class because of the system that we have in the United States. And what we've seen is that their food, their shelter, their clothing has all been taken care of, to the point their mind can wander into looking for problems. And what happens?
Do you know that the communist revolution of 1917
just let me say this. Let me say this, Bryan.
Yeah.
Let me say this. So when their mind wanders into Marxism, they start talking about an idealistic system that they have never lived in. And under the belief that humans will somehow ditch their ego, their drive for power, their demand to win and have a better life.
And their drive for a better life, and they're going to keep their competitive spirit down. You're right.
So what happens with Marxism is it eventually leads to communism. And
it is communism. Marxism is Karl Marx.
Well, it's like the baby. And guess what happens to all these women, all these gays, all these minorities that are pushing this Marxism? They get wiped out. They were literally called useful idiots by Stalin. That's what happens. They don't understand it. They live in a happy town because most of them were born into a wealth system. Okay. Like you look at BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed right now is deep throating debt. Okay. It is getting its dick kicked in.
Oh, it is. I'm glad. Are they really? That's great.
They're getting their dick kicked in. NBC, which owns them, is looking at they might be losing $400 million. Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, because they're not in touch with
because the rich white kids convincing everybody that poor white kids are the problem.
You're right, dude. And listen, the communist revolution of 1917 under Lenin, it was exactly the same thing back then. It was a bunch of intellectuals. It was mostly intellectuals, educated young people who created the fanaticism and the intellectual architecture that essentially enforced engineered equality on that country and on the rest of the world. And so you're right. It's always a small, energetic group of intellectuals who don't live in the real world, remember this about Marxism. I've always said, as long as there is good shit to have and bad shit to have, you're going to want the good shit. If you got a cow to split, the strong are going to get the steaks. Then the next group are going to get hamburger. The next group is going to get sausage. And somebody's going to be left holding the lips and the asshole. And capitalists hate, I mean, communists hate chewing that hard just as much as capitalists do. Okay. And everybody wants a seat in everyone wants seat 2A, not 39E in the middle, right in the back of the plane. Everybody wants an oceanfront view, not fucking living in a basement. So as long as there's good shit to have, you're going to strive to get that good shit. And you might start poor, but what's cool about this country is sometimes you can float in, you can figure your way into more wealth. And that's the whole point, is the fact that this country, that you have potential. You may not be rich now, but you have the potential, if you put your mind to it, in 20 years to be at least comfortable. That is the magic of the United States. And when you have communism, remember this: if you believe in Marxism and you believe in equality to that degree, you are going to have a central body that enforces that equality. And the only way to do that is with at the barrel of a gun. Ultimately, you're going to have to take people that are making money and are smart, and you're going to have to penalize them for their energy, for their risk taking, for their ingenuity and genius. And you're going to have to say, hey, thanks for inventing Apple, but we have to take 95% of your wealth and you get 5% just so we can keep everybody equal. And who does that? You need a very powerful central body to do that. And always, if you think that you're good, you're virtuous enough to be that central body, well, guess what? You may be, but the person behind you is not. And that system will attract people who want that power, who use that power, and will kill people who are in the way. And that is what history shows us over and over in any collectivist society. Name one, and I'll tell you what it is.
Bryan, do you know what? To me, that was wonderful, and I agree with you. Bryan, do you know
there should be
about
music after I talk? And you should be writing.
I wanted to have a American flag just flapping in the back.
It's just about human nature.
A small image of a bald eagle flying free. Okay,
good. Because you know what? It's about fucking the individual. Give me some poppers.
Here we go, Bryan. Here we go.